All right, quick heads up. If you're listening to this while hungry or planning a cruise, you have been warned.
Last episode, we talked about Discovery Cove, the calm water, the dolphins, all inclusive, super relaxed beach day. But today we're taking it off the beach and out to sea.
The exact opposite direction. This week, we're talking about
Hmm.
my hosted group sailing on Norwegian Cruise Line's Norwegian Prima. What worked, what caught us off guard, and where the ship really fits for travelers.
Guys, this is not a talk about the brochure. This is a talk about a real trip. You're listening to One Slice at a Time. Let's get into it.
Do, do.
Welcome back to One Slice at a Time. I'm Stephanie, travel advisor, theme park strategist, and master planner of family friendly adventures all over the globe. And I'm really excited about today's episode because we're talking about a cruise experience that a lot of people ask us about. Norwegian Cruise Line is one of those brands that shows up in conversations all the time, especially for travelers who want flexibility, modern ships, and a more relaxed vibe.
Brian, travel agent, cruise host, curator of group trips, and someone who just spent a week eating my way across the Norwegian Prima, purely for research.
So last week we talked about Discovery Cove, which is a very controlled, very curated luxury experience. This week is different. It's bigger, it's a little busier, it's more complex, and that is what makes it really interesting to start to unpack.
Exactly. This sailing that I just took on the Norwegian Prima was extra meaningful because it wasn't just a personal cruise with me and my immediate family. It was a hosted group experience that I did for the Port St. Lucie Elks Lodge. There were 17 cabins in total, 2 organized happy hours, lots and lots of shared moments, laughter, and fun for this group. You could say this episode, this cruise, is just full of extra toppings.
So, Ryan, before we get into the Prima specifically, it's time to set some expectations about Norwegian as a cruise line. When people ask me about how Norwegian compares, I usually say it sits alongside Royal Caribbean and Carnival in terms of scale, with a slightly more adult leaning personality. It's not adults only, it's not really luxury, but more of a relaxed grown up vacation than a party at sea.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. I also think it sits between Carnival and Royal in terms of pricing, so people know that. It's also not that kids aren't welcome. They absolutely are, but Norwegian doesn't really build the entire experience around kids the way that some other lines do.
And what's interesting is that Norwegian has been making a very intentional shift with all of their newer ships.
Yeah,
The Prima class ships, Prima, Viva, Aqua, and Luna, that's coming later this year, feel like Norwegian saying, we can do a modern design in upscale spaces without going into the fuel luxury space.
absolutely. They're taking that mass market ship and they're just trying to have some more refined spaces for the adult that's looking for that. But let's talk about this group cruise aspect. As you alluded to in our last episode, I am group cruise expert. So
You are.
this is where this trip that we just did really shined. Like I said before, 17 cabins sailing together with the Elks, and I organized 2 private happy hours, one on each sea day. That might sound small, but it makes a huge difference when it comes to group cruising because typically you'll have a sea day at the front of the trip and one at the end of the trip. So this little happy hour that you get together, it's like, hey, welcome aboard. And everybody gets to talk and to find out where they're staying, where they're eating that night. And it just kind of rolls into the whole thing where the people can now get together because a lot of times you don't have Wi-Fi and cell phones when you're at sea.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's where those happy hours really make a huge difference. And it's a small thing, but it's something that your travel agent can put together for you.
And this is something that I wish more people understood about group cruising in general. It's not just about, oh, seeing somebody in the dining room. It's really about creating those intentional moments for the group to come together and actually connect.
That's right. After the first happy hour, there was like plans put together for a bunch of these people that were sailing together to get together
Mhm.
in the bar down the hall to play left, right, center. So it was just,
Okay.
like little ad hoc appointments could get made at these things. And honestly, the Elks told me that they had done 3 cruises before with different travel agents. and no one had ever organized onboard events for them like this. So to me,
Right.
that's sort of baseline. Like that's when you're doing a group
Uh-huh.
cruise, that's the thing you've got to be doing. So you do these little happy hours, and suddenly the cruise just wasn't a vacation, it was their vacation.
That's an important distinction. And let's talk about the itinerary for a second, because this is a really solid Caribbean route.
Yeah, we sailed out of Port Canaveral and visited Ocho Rios, Grand Cayman, Cozumel, and Norwegian's private island, Great Stirrup Cay, which has gone through a bunch of renovations recently, and there are still some in progress. Our Grand Cayman day was one where we had to tender, and due to winds that we were experiencing last week, the port was canceled. So that can happen whenever you have a tender port. It can happen with any port, really, where the captain is looking at the weather and says, it's not safe, so we're not going to do it. Yeah, that happens.
But really, that's a great mix. You have ports that have some adventure, you have some easy ports, and then you had a private island day to kind of like slow things down. From a planning perspective, that's an itinerary that works for first-time cruisers and repeat cruisers.
Right. By the way, a private island, I love a private island, so much so that that's a future episode. So we're probably not
Oh,
going to talk
yeah.
a ton about it
Who's the
on
best?
this. Yeah, that that is going to be a future episode for sure. So let's talk about the design and layout of the Prima, because this was unlike anything I've ever seen before. Most of what we talk about is going to apply fleet-wide for Norwegian Cruise Line,
Mhm.
but there are some exceptions when it comes to Prima. For instance, a lot of the common areas are concentrated on decks 6, 7, 8, 17, and 18. And while that's not
Okay.
different from other cruise lines, what really surprised me was how deck 6 through 8, it didn't feel like a cruise ship at all.
You said it felt more like a luxury hotel, right?
Yeah, and which is both a compliment and a challenge, because it was beautiful, open, modern. But when you're in port and the casinos and the shops are closed, it felt empty and disorienting because you couldn't really see the ocean on the outside. So it was just like a little
Ah.
weirdness to get used to in that
Mhm.
first part. Like there are spots where you could go see like the ocean, but like it really felt like you were sort of in the middle of a mall. And when those shops
Oh,
closed,
wow.
it's like, wait, where am I? So yeah, it, like I said, it took me a couple
Sorry.
of days to get my bearings. It's like learning where to find the best slice in a new city type of thing.
Norwegian kind of gets misunderstood because even though it skews more adults, there's still plenty to do for families with kids, right?
Yeah, there was wet slides, there were dry slides. The dry slide went from deck
Wow.
18 to deck 7. There was mini golf, an arcade, a kids club. There was go-karts actually. Um,
Oh, wow.
and I went to the arcade thinking, okay, maybe I'll play some pinball or something like that. But the arcade definitely felt like it was for younger people. There's not much for like the nostalgic adult that wants to go in and play like an arcade
Right.
game
Skee
from the
ball,
80s.
pinball, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it was really great for kids. And they could buy like a pass for the week where it's like $200 and they could play it free on
Mm.
all the machines.
Huh.
Listen, that might sound like expensive, but
Yeah,
just
you've never
imagine,
had a kid go to the arcade in a cruise ship then.
or an adult go to the casino.
True, true. True, true. Sounds
Yeah,
expensive, but yeah,
not bad. For 7 days.
for sure. And I mean, families who don't need like the characters, they don't need the constant simulation for the kids. This can work really, really well.
Yeah,
And quick reminder, this episode and all of our other episodes are sponsored by us. We are
that's right.
travel agents and we are here to help you plan your group cruise. We take travel very seriously.
But not always pizza.
I think we take pizza just as seriously as
I do
travel,
too. I do
actually.
too.
But that also means it's time for Ryan's Crusty Review.
That's right. And today's crusty review actually does come from the Norwegian Prima itself at the Italian specialty restaurant called Scarpetta. Before I get into that, I will let you know that there is pizza on the lunch and dinner buffet, and it's kind of bad. So we're going to focus on Scarpetta, which is their specialty Italian restaurant. Here's what's funny about this: it was not an entree. Pizza was not an entree at Scarpetta's. I open up the menu and I'm like so shocked to find pizza on the left hand side of the menu. I asked the wait staff about this and they said, oh, it's like 6 slices of pizza per pie. So I thought to myself, it must be like a little 6-inch pizza that, is
Right.
perfect for, because appetizers on cruise ships, they're not really shared. They're usually for
Right.
like
Per
one
person.
person.
Mhm.
So that's what I assumed it was, because why else would pizza be on the appetizer side of the menu? So
Right.
thinking we're going to get 6-inch pie. So then my mother-in-law, Joanne, orders a pizza. Doug from the Elks Lodge orders a pizza. I, of course, order pizza. I'm thinking about ordering 6 pizzas because I'm thinking they're 6 inches, but I only ordered one. Our party of 5, they ordered 3 pizzas as appetizers, plus a few other appetizers. And then we all ordered a pasta course and an entree course.
Oh my.
To our surprise, the pizza was full size. Probably like a 14-inch pizza, I would say,
Oh
which is,
wow.
yeah, much bigger than, you're really stretching the boundaries of personal size pizza for a normal human. For me, that's still personal, but
Easy.
anyway. So the pizza's full size, and they parked 3 of those suckers down on the table as an appetizer. Just like, I'm looking at them and I'm like, this is supposed to be an appetizer. What are you? So if you're wondering how was this comical pizza, it was definitely the best pizza on the cruise ship. It blew that buffet pizza out of the water. And actually, it was pretty good. I'm going to give it like an average rating. So for me, that's like 6 out of 8. Not really New York style, not really saucy, but thin crust and delicious. The only thing is, though, they had 2 pre designed options. One of them was basically like a cheese pizza, and one had some prosciutto on it and stuff like that. There were
Mhm.
no customizations. I tried.
Uh,
And I think it's a misstep on NCL's part. I'm just, I'm going to be honest. If you're going to have
right.
an Italian place, give us some agency over how we enjoy the pizza. That said, though, I'm definitely going back to Scarpetta's on all future cruises. It was pretty much the only time all week that I had pizza, which has led to a 4-day bender that I'm on right now. I've had it every day since I've been back.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about the food on Norwegian, let's step away from the pizza and talk about the rest of the dining experience, which is on Norwegian kind of like part of their brand promise.
Yeah. I think Prima had at least 10 specialty dining options. There's 2 main dining rooms, so you could actually float back and
Mhm.
forth between the two. You don't have an assigned table. You can go anytime you want.
Ah.
They had 10 specialty restaurants. It might be 8, it might be 12. I don't remember exactly, but there was a lot. I ate at Cagney's Steakhouse, the Italian restaurant that I just talked about in the Crusty Review, and Los Lobos, the Mexican spot, which had tableside guac, unlimited chips and salsa, which for me is the whole point of going to a Mexican restaurant. I
Yeah.
don't need the entree. That's what I'm there for.
Just chips, guac, margaritas. We're good.
Maybe a churro if there's room.
Oh, okay.
There was room. But Cagney's in particular surprised me. A lot of the cruisers that I was with, and remember I was with like 40 of them, they said it was one of the best steaks they've had at sea. And
Wow.
honestly, I think they might be right. Because, I had prime rib. My father-in-law got a
Mhm.
ribeye. Other people got the petite filet. There were no complaints. Even the bread was great, which is always the first sign of a good restaurant. Give me a crappy
Yes, it
roll.
is.
It's kind of bad news. But listen, I have
Down
had
from there.
I have had the T-bone upcharge, $80 upcharge on
Mhm.
Windstar's Candles restaurant. I've had the really expensive T-bone on at Apollo on the Disney Cruise Line.
Mhm.
And I like both of those, but I do think my prime rib here was better. And so
Wow.
I think that's saying something for Norwegian. It was really good.
And when it comes to this specialty dining, there's a little bit of a strategy, right? Because some restaurants, they are very popular. So snagging those dining times or reservations get kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's true. And you have to kind of know how the Norwegian system works because
Mm.
first and foremost, they do open up dining reservations 90 days before the cruise. So that's good and all, but
Mm.
they only open up a certain amount of those reservations. They leave a
Right.
lot open. So You have to know that, so that as soon as you get on the ship and you connect to the ship's Wi-Fi, you can make reservations, and there will be slots open at all of the restaurants. So it's a situation where getting an early boarding time, it is really helpful
Right.
because you can make the specialty dining reservations as you get on.
Sure.
And inventory is limited, but you know, waiting it out is risky.
Hmm.
We were originally going to go to the Mediterranean restaurant though, but I think it was like day 6 we switched it to the Mexican restaurant. So
Mexican.
there is availability. All you have to do is when you get on board, you're going to use that app to make reservations, or if you're not app savvy, and that was the case for some of the people that were on this cruise with me, believe it or
Right.
not, they just went to any of the restaurants and talked to like a host there, and they were able to make
Right.
reservations at any of the other restaurants. It was easy. Yep.
That's good. And now, speaking about your group, I mean, every ship has places that people just naturally gravitate to. So, what were your spaces on this ship?
My favorite spot on the ship was the observation lounge on deck 17. Hands down. It was the best. I think I'm kind of finding out that that's sort of my jam on all cruise ships, but it had coffee and pastries in the morning, cocktails in the afternoon, floor to ceiling windows so you could look out and see where the ship is going on the left and the right as well, because it wrapped around the whole front of the ship. It was a really big space. My mother-in-law and I played cards a whole bunch. She beat me every game. And we just, yeah. Well, when you're retired, I think you play cards for a living. And so I think that's what
Your
she had
mother-in-law,
my
the
number
card
though.
shark.
She definitely had my number though. But sitting up there playing cards, there was wait staff going by, taking drink orders, delivering me Coke Zeros and other drinks.
Yeah.
Absolute highlight for me was that spot.
You talked about the wait staff delivering your drinks. How was the service overall?
Service was really good. Not ultra luxury, but consistently solid, especially the bartenders and the specialty dining staff. I'm not saying that there was problems in the main dining room, but
Right.
it was really good in those other places, like noticeably different. So I will say that in those spaces, in the bars and at the specialty dining, the staff was incredible. One thing I will mention, it's not really related to the service, but in terms of pools and entertainment, the pool deck was small and there were limited loungers. What's interesting though, Stephanie, is that I'm finding as I go on more and more cruises that people aren't using the pool as much. So I think Norwegian's noticing that, and it kind of just made it smaller on the Prima, because the
Using
Prima
the
just came
space
out.
better.
Yeah, it just came out in 2022. There was a ton of indoor spaces to hang out. Lots of like the observation lounge that I talked about. But if you wanted to like sun out, there was not a lot of loungers. So that was kind of weird.
So you have everybody running down at 5 a.m. and putting their book on a
there was some of
lounger.
that. Yeah, there was some of that. Yep. And then the other thing is with the entertainment. Some people were disappointed on the entertainment. It didn't sour the cruise or anything.
Because of like scheduling, or what was going on?
Yeah, it was mostly the scheduling, because they did have that big theater. They had, I'm going to say, like 3 to 4 shows throughout the week. So there was big shows in the theater. Yeah, so I thought that was a good amount. But the part that was hard is that you'd make these specialty dining reservations. And if you made your reservation for, say, 7 o'clock, you probably you definitely missed the 6:30 showing. And you were pushing right up against the 9 o'clock showing. So you might have been late.
Oh, yeah.
And then they also have the reservation system for the shows. So I think people felt like if they didn't get a reservation, they couldn't go, which is absolutely not the case. I walked into the show, no problem. But there was entertainment, and they also had comedy clubs and things like that. So the entertainment was there, but I think it was a little hard for people to figure out when they should be going.
Right.
All right. So here's the big thing, though, I will say. When it comes to Norwegian Cruise Line, you want to work with me or Stephanie. There are a lot of things that people miss out on, like the strategy that I've just shared about specialty dining, like what we've talked about with the shows and things like that. But there's a price component too. Norwegian Cruise Line has what they call a CruiseFirst program, and you can save $150 to $250 when booking your cruise. And I'm telling you, most people don't know about it.
Yep.
It's a coupon program. You buy a certificate for $150 or $250, and it's worth
Right.
$300 or $500 when you apply it to your cruise. There's rules about it that you have to understand about
Mhm.
cruise length and timing of the booking, but most people can always take advantage of this and they don't even know about it.
Right.
And the other thing is, like, when you're on board, NCL pushes the CruiseNext program really hard. It's their future
Right.
cruise credit program where you buy cruise certificates while you're on board for, say, $300, and then they give you
Hmm.
$150 worth of onboard credit for your current cruise. In most
Right.
cases, as you know, I would tell people to skip that and just use the CruiseFirst because it's sort of the same benefit and you can't combine them. But my whole point
Right.
here is contact Stephanie or me for this so that you have access
Yeah.
to all these little idiosyncrasies, because there's a lot that comes into planning a cruise. And if you haven't sailed with
Right.
Norwegian before, you got to know these little idiosyncrasies.
Ins and outs. Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. So, big picture, guys, Prima is modern. It's very design focused. It's a strong fit for adults. And like Ryan did, an organized group.
Yeah. I didn't even mention the fact that you get an amenity package with Norwegian as part of your group. And one of the amenities was $100 donation to the lodge, the Elks Lodge,
Oh, that's
per cabin,
good. Yeah.
per
Oh,
cabin.
wow.
So
That's
for them,
awesome.
yeah, for them, it was a nice fundraiser. So
Oh, yeah.
great food, sharp look, solid group setup. It wasn't flawless, but for the
Right.
right traveler, it works really well. And if you have these pro tips, you know these things going in, and it really helps.
Next week, we're going to change gears again.
Yeah. That's all we do
Flippy
is change
floppy.
gears. Stephanie and the family, we talked about their Discovery Cove experience last week.
Mhm.
So next week, we're going to talk about their Epic Universe experience. It's the new Universal Park, and Stephanie went on a holiday weekend.
We're going to talk about the opening rush, how long the wait time was, about the rides, some great moments that surprised us, and some real world testing. And I'm telling you what, guys, I've got notes.
I'm sure 10 out of 10, but you got notes.
I got notes.
But before we wrap up, we've got that all important question.
What's for dinner, Ryan?
Well, after all that food, I should pick something else. But let's be honest, it's probably pizza again, reliable, no stress, always the right call.
Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and share this show with somebody who loves travel or pizza.
And subscribe to our newsletter at extracheese.fun.
That's right. If you can't get
Yeah,
enough of us.
that's right.
Until next week, guys, keep traveling the world.
One slice at a time.
Have a great week. Bye.